From spectacular successes to famous failures, Kings Island has seen many attractions come and go, each one having their own unique story to tell. Journey through time to explore the legends of these lost rides. Holding the record for the shortest-lived roller coaster at Kings Island, the Bat opened at the park for the 1981 season. The Bat was a suspended roller coaster, a new ride type that had been developed by manufacturer Arrow. While traditional roller coasters saw trains travel above the tracks, this new ride type would have the trains below the track, capable of swinging sideways as they negotiated the layout's curves. Starting in an elaborate station that resembled a Victorian mansion, riders would board one of the four-person bat-shaped cars that made up the trains. Each car was hung from the wheel assembly, located on the orange track above. After leaving the station, trains would climb the first 100-foot lift hill, after which they would descend the spiral drop, curves, turns, a helix, and arrive at the second of the ride's lift hills. Following this, another spiral drop came, before more tight curves and helixes, then hitting the brakes. Early plans called for the layout to include two corkscrew versions, but these were removed in the early design phases. The Bat was plagued with numerous issues that started even before the coaster's opening. Trains were negotiating the track faster than expected, leading to excessive swinging of the cars. Additional shock absorbers were added, but even upon opening, premature wear meant these were being replaced daily. The lack of banking of the track further compounded problems, with the tight curves and lateral forces causing the trains to swing past their design limitations. Another major flaw concerned the ride's braking systems. Brake fins for the trains were installed underneath the cars, and the swinging would cause these to misalign. Additionally, the pinch brakes proved inadequate to fully slow the heavy wheel assemblies, located several feet above. This caused excessive stress on the frames and carriage. The first season saw many periods of extended downtime, with the park and Arrow hoping to address and fix many of the problems that affected the ride. Over the closed season, extensive modifications were made to the ride, trains and safety systems, with the aim of providing more reliable operations. The Bat opened for the first 4 weekends of the 1982 season, but suffered a further mechanical malfunction. Upon analysis, it was discovered that the welds that attached the track to the supports were being damaged by the high lateral forces created as the trains traversed the unbanked track. The ride remained closed until May of the following year, when it reopened with further modifications. However, it was plagued with more downtime and closed abruptly in early August 1983, never to reopen. The Bat would eventually be scrapped, with its plot and station being reused for the more traditional Arrow looping coaster Vortex a few years later. The suspended roller coaster model was eventually perfected, and in 1992, Kings Island received Top Gun, a newer version of this failed prototype. Top Gun featured bank turns, as well as brakes integrated into the wheel assembly itself. In 2014, it was renamed the Bat in honour of the original. Originally opening as Giant Double Wheel in 1975, Zodiac stood at the end of the Coney Island Park area. It was the second of this ride type to be constructed, with the first opening at Hershey Park in 1973. This double Ferris wheel ride featured a large hydraulic arm with 12 carriages suspended from spokes at each end. Reaching 135 feet, one end of the arm could rotate, while the other was perpendicular to the ground being loaded. The ride changed very little during its time at Kings Island, and operated for 12 seasons. Zodiac was removed in 1987, and transferred to sister park Australia's Wonderland, where it operated until the park closure in 2004. The site of Zodiac sat empty until 1990, and the opening of Flight Commander. When Kingsmill Antique Autos opened in 2019, it paid homage to the site's former resident by naming the gas station Zodiac Refining Company. 1977 was the year of the Shuttle Loop roller coaster, with 6 opening in the United States that year. King's Dominion had opened a Schwarzkopf model, and King's Island opened the Screamin Demon designed by Arrow. The ride was located in Wild Animal Safari, with most of the ride situated above a lake, and the loop painted a striking red and yellow gradient. In order to ride, guests would have to ascend a set of stairs to an elevated loading platform. Once on board, riders would be secured, and the train would be launched. An electric motor and pulley propelled the train, dropping abruptly, only to pull up and enter a vertical loop. Following the loop, the train would ascend to a second platform similar to the first. After coming to a stop, riders would then launch backwards, traversing the loop in reverse and stopping again in the loading station. The ride was very simple by today's standards, but looping rides were still in their infancy. Because of this, the ride was a hit with park visitors, ensuring plans were put in place for more new roller coasters in coming years. By 1982, the coaster had been renamed to simply Demon and received a more muted black and brown colour scheme. In 1987, a sign was erected close to the Demon, announcing that the location would be home to an exciting new family attraction the following year. That attraction would be Amazon Falls, with Demon being sold to Camden Park in West Virginia. The coaster reopened the following year at Camden Park as Thunderbolt, and operated there until 1999 when it closed due to an electrical issue, never reopening and being dismantled in 2004. The Flight Commander flat ride opened at the park in 1990 and was an Intamin flight trainer model. Only 7 of this type of ride ever operated, and Flight Commander was the 4th to open in the United States. The ride consisted of 22-person capsules connected to a central tower by a movable arm. Riders would board one of the capsules before being secured. The capsules would ascend the tower, and a joystick would allow guests to control their own vehicle. The individual arms could be raised and lowered, while the capsules could complete 360-degree inversions. This offered a differing experience every ride, and one that could be gentle or intense depending on who was at the controls. On June 9, 1991, a 32-year-old woman was ejected from the ride, falling 60 feet and being pronounced dead at a nearby hospital. Ride design flaws were cited as the cause of the tragedy. A lack of seat divider had allowed the rider to slide to the adjacent unoccupied seat. The ride remained closed the remainder of the year and reopened in 1992 with modifications. A seat divider and lengthened lap bars were installed, along with the joystick being inoperable if both restraints were not locked. Due to the incident, the popularity of this ride waned, and Flight Commander was removed at the end of the 1995 season. The area is now home to Kingsmill Antique Autos. Upon its removal, Flight Commander was sold to Flamingoland in Yorkshire, England, where it opened in 1996 as Top Gun. Top Gun operated at the park until 2004 before being scrapped. Looking to celebrate 100 years since the first roller coaster in the United States, Kings Island wanted to open a unique ride for the 1984 season. That installation would be King Cobra, a stand-up roller coaster from Japanese manufacturer Togo. Stand-up rides were the current craze in coaster design, and existing sit-down models had been converted with new stand-up trains. King Cobra would be the first roller coaster designed and manufactured from the ground up as a stand-up ride. An Astro Comet model had been constructed in the parking lot of Togo's Tokyo facility, and it was that prototype that Kings Island purchased. It was dismantled and reconstructed in the Adventure Village area of the park. Costing the park $3 million, King Cobra opened in April of 1984. Its green and yellow colour scheme fitting with its snake theme. The ride stood 95 foot high and was a simple layout, relying on the standing ride position to provide the thrills and differentiate it from other attractions. Riders would board 24-passenger two-across trains, with an unusual restraint design. They would need to straddle a bicycle-style seat, place their arms through somewhat fixed side restraints, and then pull a lap bar towards them. The whole seat was spring-loaded, so it could adjust for riders at different heights. Once loaded, the train would ascend the lift hill and round a 180-degree curve before descending the first drop. Immediately, trains would pull up into a large vertical loop. Upon exiting, they would negotiate a camelback before a dizzying 540-degree helix. The track was angled so that riders would be standing almost sideways as they raced around the curves. After the helix, a second camelback was followed by a trick track and a 180-degree curve before two final bunny hills. The ride was certainly unique and was marketed as the world's first stand-up coaster. The ride suffered an incident during its first summer. In August, a wheel assembly broke off the last car, causing the train to slow and stop, leaving riders standing parallel to the ground 7 feet up. 2001 would be the last year for King Cobra. The ride's manufacturer Togo had gone out of business the same year, and finding parts would prove difficult. Kings Island took the decision to remove the ride. Trains and track were stored, with hope of finding a buyer. However, without a purchaser, the track was scrapped. The trains were briefly used as Halloween props before they were transferred to King's Dominion to use on a similar ride. Ride footing still in place, the plot was used for Delirium in 2003. With construction of Banshee, most were removed, but the footings of the first turnaround still remain, close to Adventure Express, overgrown by foliage. Opening in 1992, Phantom Theatre was a spooky dark ride that took guests behind the curtain of a haunted playhouse. Installed as a replacement for Smurf's Enchanted Voyage and the earlier Hanna-Barbera themed attraction. The building was gutted, with the water transportation system removed, replaced by Omnimover ride cars. Detailed scenes were constructed, along with a new entrance, and the attraction was ready to welcome guests on April 11, 1992. After entering the dilapidated opera house, visitors would encounter Maestro and witness him playing his pipe organ, occasionally taunting guests to take the ghostly tour. Riders would then enter the loading station and were seated in one of the 3 passenger cars to begin their tour. They would then meet Maestro again, who would pull back the curtain as the journey began. Along the way, riders would witness ghostly ushers, visit performers' dressing rooms and see tangled stagehands. Backstage rehearsals were underway and guests moved into the auditorium to witness the final performance by Houdolini, Hilda Bovine and the Great Garbanzo. Following a collection of props, guests would pass through the boiler room and escape the theatre. The 5-minute attraction featured numerous animatronics, a custom soundtrack and special effects. It hit the balance between fun and scary, suitable for the full family. Despite this, the ride closed in July of 2002 with little notice. Riding the craze for interactivity, the theatre was subsequently transformed into Scooby and the Haunted Castle. The reused ride vehicles fitted with interactive blasters, allowing them to shoot various targets located around the circuit. The attraction was again modified to become Boo Blasters on Boo Hill in 2010, following a change in licensing agreements. Over the years, Phantom Theatre became a fan favourite and is fondly remembered by Kings Island visitors. In celebration of the former attraction, a show based on the ride was created as part of the park's 50th anniversary celebrations. Phantom Theatre Encore used characters and imagery from the ride as part of a musical show performed in the Kings Island Theatre. Billed as the first suspended roller coaster for families, Scooby's Ghoster Coaster opened in Hanna-Barbera Land for the 1998 season. This was one of only a handful of such rides ever created. Manufactured by Dutch company Caripro, it was the third suspended roller coaster to be installed at Kings Island. The ride was themed to the Scooby-Doo franchise and featured a large haunted house as the entrance. Riders boarded small 2-person cars with straddle seating. The cars had bats flying overhead and were suspended from a single rail. Once loaded, they would enter an unusual elevator lift, raising guests to a height of 35 feet. What followed was a slow swinging journey of the figure-8 track, reaching speeds of 8 miles per hour and only lasting 50 seconds. The low capacity and modest thrills may be the reason the ride only lasted 8 years at the park, before being removed in 2005. Its removal allowed for the construction of other rides during the area's conversion to Nickelodeon Universe, and Avatar: The Last Airbender opened in its place the following year. Scooby's track and cars sat in storage for a number of years, before eventually being scrapped, while its replacement was renamed Surf Dog and still operates today. Scooby's Ghoster Coaster was one of the more unique roller coasters to be installed at Kings Island. Caripro went on to be purchased by Vekoma before being dissolved. It only ever produced 9 roller coasters, with 4 still in operation. Eager to make an impact with a new ride for the new millennium, Son of Beast was unveiled with much fanfare in May 1999. The new attraction will be a multiple record holder, taking the title as tallest and fastest wooden roller coaster in the world, and would feature a groundbreaking vertical loop. The ride was styled as a sequel to Kings Island's signature ride, The Beast. Designed by the Roller Coaster Corporation of America, Son of Beast suffered problems before it was even finished, with a partial collapse of the structure during construction, which led to delays in opening. Opening day arrived, and the park's newest roller coaster gave its first official rides on April 28, 2000. Leaving the station, trains encountered a series of small hops before the massive 218-foot lift hill. After ascending the structure, trains negotiated the first drop, racing 214 feet downwards, then upwards into a bank curve. The trains dropped once more, negotiating the massive double helix Rose Bowl. Following mid-course breaks, riders would drop again to experience the massive vertical loop, before a final helix and some short hills to finish the ride. While some praised the roller coaster, others branded the experience rough and uncomfortable, possibly due to many defects in its design and construction. Son of Beast was marred by numerous track issues, and as soon as one day after opening, defects were found necessitating closure and repairs. A major incident occurred in July of 2006, when a train full of riders suffered a serious jolt as it passed over a structural track failure. The ride remained closed for the remainder of the season, and the decision was made to replace the trains with lighter models. The new trains necessitated the removal of the vertical loop in order to help them complete the layout, and the renovated ride opened in July of 2007. Another incident would occur in July of 2009, which resulted in a further closure of the ride. Son of Beast never reopened, and references to it were removed from the park website. Despite some considerations given to further renovations, the decision was made to remove the ride for future expansion. The ride's structure was spectacularly demolished in the autumn of 2012. A new roller coaster, Banshee, was constructed on part of Son of Beast's former plot. And upon opening, a tribute to its predecessor was displayed in the attraction's queue. Announced in 2001 and opening in 2002, Tomb Raider the Ride was one of a number of film-based attractions to open at Kings Island during the Paramount Parks era. Tomb Raider cost an estimated $20 million to install and pushed theming and immersion to a level not seen at the park before. The indoor ride started from a plaza in Rivertown as guests passed the stone archway and entered the archaeological site. Moving deeper into the tomb, guests would eventually reach a pre-show where they were batched into 3 groups. Visitors were told the ride's storyline and introduced to the Triangle of Light. On the conclusion of the pre-show, one entire wall would lift upwards, revealing a 60-foot tall chamber and allowing 77 guests to board one of 3 rows of the ride vehicle. The ride vehicle would lift, guests staring eye to eye with the god Shiva, before darkness ensued, and riders were flipped head over heels, stopping inches from icy stalactites. More flips followed, and the vehicle hung above a bubbling lava pit, while jets of magma came within inches of riders' faces. Fog engulfed the room, and the music swelled, revealing fire, ice, and the god once more. Tomb Raider the Ride was an intense visual and physical experience, and was in fact a heavily themed indoor flat ride. The ride model was a Huss giant topspin, the only one of this size ever produced, and the theming and story-driven experience created a unique indoor attraction not found anywhere else. With the purchase of Kings Island by Cedar Fair, the Paramount branding was removed and the ride was named the Crypt. One row of seating was removed from the ride vehicle, reducing the capacity to 44. Theming from the ride also disappeared, and over the coming years effects were turned on and off as well as the soundtrack changing multiple times. The Crypt gave its last ride in October of 2011, and the park announced on Twitter the following January that the ride had reached the end of its service life. The building is now used each year for Madame Fatale's Cavern of Terror, a Halloween haunt. Firehawk opened close to Flight of Fear for the 2007 season, having originally operated at Geauga Lake. The ride had been installed as X-Flight at Six Flags World of Adventure in 2001, opening as the Midwest's first and only flying coaster. Cedar Fair purchased the park from Six Flags in 2004, renaming it Geauga Lake and making plans to downsize. X-Flight would be removed in 2006, and once dismantled, track began appearing at Kings Island. The ride was officially announced in February 2007, with a Memorial Day weekend opening. This would be the first roller coaster installation at Kings Island since the acquisition of the park from Paramount. Its construction created a new area, X-Base, which was accessed by a walkway under the racer's lift hill. Firehawk was a Vekoma Flying Dutchman model, one of 3 constructed, and when relocated to Kings Island, it featured a deep red and grey colour scheme. Trains were 4 across and had an unusual loading procedure. Riders were seated in a standard roller coaster train and secured by a ratcheting lap bar and vest restraint. The full train then tilted backwards, locked into place, and riders progressed up the lift hill on their back facing skyward. Once the train reached the top of the hill, it would tip downwards and enter a lie-to-fly twist, putting guests in the flying position. What followed was a swooping journey around the track, reaching speeds of 51 miles per hour and traversing 5 inversions. The highlight being a large vertical loop pulling 4.3 G. At the end of the layout, another twist would return riders to the lie position before the brakes. Being a relocated attraction, its unique ride experience meant Firehawk was still a popular addition. However, despite the dual loading station, the complicated restraints resulted in the ride only having an hourly capacity of around 500 people per hour. The coaster gave its last rides in October of 2018 and was removed before the start of the following season. The replacement opened as the Giga Coaster Orion in 2020, with X-Base becoming Area 71. The entrance building for the new roller coaster was originally the on-ride photo booth for Firehawk. For more than 50 years, Kings Island has thrilled and excited visitors with its collection of world-class attractions. While some may have disappeared from the map, the memories of these lost rides live on, each weaving their tale into the fabric of the park.